Welcome, hello, and hello everybody from whatever part of the world you're joining us from, whatever time of day it is. There's a question to be asked no matter what the time is. You are hopefully here to ask your questions about SharePoint, about OneDrive, about Microsoft Lists, and Microsoft Stream. And we have a great set of experts from the product teams, all four of them, that are here to answer whatever questions that you have. Your questions will go into the Tech Community Live. And if you're there already now, you can see us above, but put your questions in. Make sure that you put your questions in for the team that you want to ask so that we can follow along, grab your question, and prompt them to the right experts. Just so you know, this is an hour and a half long, and we have about 20 minutes with each team. And the agenda for today is we're now at the kickoff, and then we're going to move into the AMA for SharePoint. We're going to have 20 minutes with Kathy and Dave. Then we're going to move into the AMA for OneDrive. That's 20 minutes with Michaela and Carter. Then we're going to move into the AMA for Lists, and that's Michaela again. I may play a role there mostly as MC, but if there are any questions that I can help with in the list department. And then we're going to be talking with Mark Mraz from the AMA Stream team for 20 minutes. And we're going to wrap up. It's going to be a fast and furious minus Vin Diesel type hour and 30 minutes. So get your questions ready. We're going to be diving in. I want to put the one caveat that just helps us identify what the question is. If you haven't already put your question in, when you do, make sure you put in the name of the product that you're asking a question about. So it's a little bit easier to know for me, because I'll be pulling the questions and prompting our experts. I know which product that you're interested in, and then I can orient when we're going to ask that during the event. Also know that we have a few people on the back end that are going to be answering questions throughout, and any expert, if they're able to stay with us the whole time, will be answering questions off screen as well. So there'll be a lot of questions that you'll see in the broadcast. There's also going to be most and all of the questions in the tech community. So that page is very important to ask your questions. That's where you'll see answers, and some of those are certainly going to be live Q&A with our experts. That's it for me. We're going to be moving right into talking with Dave and Kathy, moving into the AMA for SharePoint section. So I want to introduce and bring on Kathy Dew and Dave Cohen from the SharePoint team. Any quick words before we move into your initial presentation?
Hi, everyone. My name is Dave Cohen. I'm the Group Product Manager for the core of SharePoint experiences, sites, and pages here at Microsoft. Kathy, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Great to see everybody today. Looking forward to answering your questions. I'm Kathy Dew. I'm a Senior Product Manager in the SharePoint space area.
Thank you for both joining, and thank you for your brain power that you're about to share with the world. I'm going to step forward into your couple of slides and demos, and I'll let you take it from here, and I'll drive on the backside.
Thank you, Mark. So the first thing that you'll see is kind of what we call the art of the possible. About a month ago at the Microsoft 365 conference, we announced a very large update to the aesthetic of SharePoint and the types of sites and pages that you'll be able to create with it. The goal here is to really enable you to create any sort of page that you would want to create in SharePoint. Mark, can you hit the video? So, sorry about that. That went to the next screen.
Yeah, it ran through. I'll run it through one more time.
Thank you. So our goal here is to really up-level the types of designs that you can achieve in SharePoint simply and easily, and really communicate your organization's brand. To do this, not only are we adding the capabilities of custom fonts and better theming, more flexible grid and layout in our pages, but we're also building a brand center where you can design specific branding elements around colors and fonts and imagery and icons, so you can manage those across your sites and pages. The next thing that we announced at the conference was the introduction of Copilot in SharePoint. So this is just an example of using large language models and the power of generative AI to have Copilot assist you in creating pages within SharePoint using natural language. Copilot is there with you. It helps you build these pages. You're always in control, but it can leverage the content that you've already created to do this. Next slide. And then, one of the other things that we announced is making pages just more collaborative than they've ever been in the past. Not only are we making pages easier to share in SharePoint, making it as easy as sharing a document, which we know is something that people really want. The thing that you would do immediately after sharing a page to collaborate is to have co-authoring on that page. You'd want people to come in and edit that page with you in real time. Now, this is a huge leap forward for SharePoint and making pages a truly collaborative space. And we're working on not just co-authoring, but the ability to leave inline comments and have reactions to content within the page. And these are just some of the announcements that we made a month ago. There should be a link that we can share with you that takes you to the SharePoint in the Era of AI blog post that we made. It's up there on the screen, aka.ms/m365 May 2nd /May 2nd /SharePoint. And that'll walk you through all of the announcements that we made. We have roadmap links for each one of those announcements, so you can see when all of this good stuff is coming. Some of it is fairly long. This is a really broad vision for us, and so some of those things will go into next year. But this is one of the largest updates we've ever announced for SharePoint, and we're really excited to take you along with us. And I'd love to answer any questions that you might have about it today.
So thank you, Dave, and thank you, Kathy. We're going to be moving into the real-time co-authoring of live Q&A. And I thought one of the first questions we could start with, and then I'm going to dig in for the next one, is around Copilot. There is the broader concern, I think, anytime we introduce anything like what happens when I turn it on or start leveraging it. Can you share, the value of Copilot in SharePoint with the caveat that the concern is, will I be oversharing? Does it have access to anything different, or will it expose anything in any new or different ways that I should be concerned about?
Yeah, that's a great question, Mark, and it's one that we've gotten a lot. And I just want to say very, very clearly that Copilot only has access to what you have access to. Your data never leaves your tenancy. We will never use your data to train models. We are very, very strict about that. Responsible AI is just one of the pillars that Microsoft has adopted with a passion. And so we just want to be very clear about this. Copilot is there to help you make the most of our tools. It makes it easier for you to be effective. In SharePoint's case, building SharePoint pages easier than you ever have before, just using natural language. And so, yeah, let me be unequivocal about that. Your data will never leave the boundaries that we have. It fully adheres to Microsoft's commitment to data governance and privacy and security.
Excellent. There are a few questions that are coming in that are a little bit more oriented around OneDrive from a files perspective. So I'm going to park a few of the questions that I see for SharePoint. But there's one that might be a little bit in Kathy's area. This is from Lizzie, and it says, when replacing a classic root site with a modern site, does the modern site remain reachable from its original address? If not, does SharePoint put a redirect in?
It's a great question. So I think I saw some conversation happening, some replies there underneath it that were providing a lot of great detail here for people to really dig into this topic. So the way that those are replaced is that it does replace it. So there's additional considerations to keep in mind around here that the people in the conversation there were pointing out about links not working and different things, because the URL does change for the home site once you set that up. And so you're changing out that URL. So there is content that you may have linked to in the past that would need to be cleaned up to have that work continuously from there. So there's a lot of great benefits for setting that and modernizing and moving forward from classic to modern and making that change for that root site. And we definitely encourage people to do that, but we do give that warning of the content cleanup that may be needed based off that URL change.
All right, I'm going to consolidate this next question, but I think it's an important one from what languages are supported, and if they're supported, how do they appear? So it may not be something that we can answer directly. So Dave or Kathy, this may be one we take as feedback. But SharePoint posts, and I just got reloaded on, It was asking about the Arabic language reading from the right to the left and how sometimes that is not always adhered to. Can you at least describe the way that SharePoint supports multiple languages? And for those that are more right to left, like Arabic or others, um, what is the intended? And then we can dig in offline if there's an issue that we can tackle.
Yeah, I can
Dave, you
take
wanna
this.
start?
So SharePoint aligns to the broader Microsoft 365 support for languages, and especially with authoring. We should have the same level of support that products like Word and PowerPoint have when authoring in right-to-left languages. If there are issues with that, if it's not working the way it should in the Pages authoring canvas, then that's just something that we have to follow up on and go fix. Because there's a fairly standard way that Office follows that pattern, and we absolutely want to align to that and should be aligning to it.
Yeah, I agree from a broader perspective, working with the team that handles all of the language packs that are now built in and available online. So supporting all languages is absolutely top of mind. We're a worldwide service. And it leads into the next question, which again may be something that I think Kathy has done a lot of work for. But both of you, of course, can take this one maybe in a couple different ways. But the question is pretty simple from Rachel. It says, is there a plan to surface accessibility tools for pages similar as we see in Word and PowerPoint?
Yeah, so I'm going to take a higher level response on this first, and then I'll let Dave speak to anything specific in the Pages space. But accessibility is really an important factor for us, especially as you saw in the demo that Dave shared of the new Pages that are very colorful and visual in a very different and dynamic space for sites and pages. So as we talked about building out this new brand center concept where you're going to have more control over your themes and colors, over your fonts, all of that capability for accessibility is planned to be built into the brand center so that at the root of what you're creating for being applied to sites, you can understand the accessibility there. And then I don't know, Dave, do you want to share anything? Is there any plans for deeper into the editing surfaces?
So we've talked internally about building an accessibility checker for Pages. We don't have anything to announce at this time about it, but it is something that we continually work on and talk about and plan. And we hear it. We hear the requirement. We do ensure that we're conforming to Microsoft standards when it does come to accessibility in Pages and all the web parts that you can use within Pages. And we do spend a lot of time ensuring that. But we don't have anything to announce around an accessibility checker specifically for page level content right now.
Yeah, I know internally when a lot of the different features and updates roll out, before they roll out, they go through a number of different checks, experience reviews, accessibility reviews, anything legal or privacy oriented, of course. So there's a lot of work that the team does specific to any feature that goes out to make sure it meets the requirements that we have. But it is great feedback, and I appreciate you both taking that one. The next one is around page development. This is from Justin. When the full width page section is available in a communication site, is there plans for that to be available outside of a communication site? Or if I'll add a little color here, in different web parts if you want to control different sections to make them full width to the consumer?
Kathy, do you want to take this?
Yeah, I mean, as part of our revamp, our revitalization, creating new beautiful pages, that is definitely a key focus for us, is how to make sites all be flexible and have the same kind of customization available in a team site as there is in a communication site. So I think you'll definitely continue to see further advancement there and with the new space that we're working on building out for sites and pages.
Very good. The next one is within the same realm, around a specific web part, and it's maybe more of an ask than a question. Can you bring back the normal paragraph spacing in text web parts on pages? And then it says, please, perhaps a new style without spacing. And I think it boils down to maybe what is the team considering around adding further options within the text web part to make it a little bit more personalized in how they want to present their materials?
Yeah, I think if I understand this question correctly, it's having a paragraph style that more closely aligns to what Word does, for example. on adding extra spaces. We're literally working on this right now. We went to a review about this feature, 2 weeks ago. So yeah, we're working on it. I can't share the timeline for it. I think we could follow up on that, but yes, we are actively working on that.
All right, so this next one might be for the syntax team, but I'm just going to throw it out here because it's a kind of an interesting question. This is from Dev. Is there any way to redact documents in SharePoint? Again, if it's not something that we can answer, take it as an interesting point, but any thoughts on control of documents so that people can ensure their different policies or adherence to governance or however that may play into it?
I think, Mark, we'd have to hand that over to our OneDrive colleagues. The OneDrive team does manage the file experience in SharePoint, and so I think we'd have to ask this question to them.
Gotcha. So let's pause on that one. The next one is, I think, an interesting connection between SharePoint and Azure Active Directory, especially when you invite external users. And the question is from Andre. Are you aware that when you invite an external user to a SharePoint site and then they do something on that site, so you see their name or their photo, that the people part on hover experience, when you see the people card, is that something that is expected not to render because they're external, or is that something that should render even if they're external and maybe we don't have a lot of information about them?
So I believe currently that it is expected that it not renders for the B2B guest users. That is an expected behavior. There's an exploration that has been done for making that behavior consistent as it is for shared channels where something does show up for external users. But there is no commitment on a roadmap for that yet. But it is expected today that external guest users do not get a people card rendered.
All right. So a good answer, I think, in terms of you should know, Dev, that the experience you're seeing is intended. It is not an error or an issue. And if it's something that you'd like to see as a feature request, I would suggest put it into the feedback portal. To the production team, if you can put in aka.ms/feedback/SharePoint, and those are always reviewed by the SharePoint team. Your feature ideas, you can vote them up, and it's always a great place to go for us to know what it is that you want or expect when you're using SharePoint. This is a broad question for SharePoint. It is asking about files, but I think it goes beyond files. This is from Nathan. Is there a way to archive? And here they're asking about archiving files. But what might be our answer today in terms of archiving files, archiving sites and pages, or archival in any sense? Either what is the default experience if you do nothing, or some of the things that we might be able to share as best practices, or a sense of what might be taken as feedback today.
Kathy, do you want to take this?
Yeah, I think on this one, I would like to pick this with some of our counterparts to give them a more complete answer on this question. I'm familiar with some of it, but not completely familiar on all of the latest enhancements here.
I know that there are some motions across a couple of different teams outside of SharePoint where they offer an archive solution. I think one of the basis things that I'll just put out there is something that I know it gets asked a lot is, should I move my content? If I don't move it, what happens? And if you have anything in a governance plan that says do something with the site, that will of course be adhered to. If you don't do anything, there is effectively archival in place. We don't delete those files. They're searchable, they're accessible if you need them. But if you're looking for true archive, there are currently partner offerings that help you enable archival of sites or smaller granular sets of content. And certainly look into the future a little bit. There are some things that the teams are working on that we can't yet share today that fall into that space that we're pretty excited about in early phases, currently in planning and testing with some of our private preview customers. But more to share on that, but certainly a depth question that's a really good one for how the evolution is coming. There's a question here around migration, and there's two questions around SharePoint migration, and it is partly to take content that's coming from an external cloud storage service. And one of the questions was around our mover capabilities that we bought. We acquired the company mover.io. I'll just ask if that's a valid question for you in terms of what's now more built into the service for both SharePoint and OneDrive. If not, I can park that one in terms of the migration question.
Sorry, Mark, what was the specific question about it?
The question was, when using the now available in-product migration, which is our SharePoint migration tool, and the migration manager, the center in the SharePoint Admin Center, we've removed the ability for people to leverage the mover site, but the capabilities are still capable within our tooling. But there's one specific feature that is not yet available for GCC. And the other question was, there's a feature that you have to do through PowerShell, not through our user interface. And they were just asking in general, plans to continue innovating off of that technology, that it's not yet accessible.
Yeah, we have, in general, we have a whole migration team whose focus is to invest in that tool and make that tool better. At a high level, just to give you some insight around some of our other environments, and GCC included, when we start rolling out features, they don't go to all environments all at the same time. Some environments, GCC being among them, have extra requirements that we have to meet before we can begin to roll out features within those environments. And so it's possible, and I don't know the details on the migration features specifically, but it's possible that those features just haven't reached that environment yet, due to that longer time to roll out and the more stringent requirements that those environments have for us to put features in them. And we don't have full parity between the environments. There are just some features that we build that cannot go to government cloud. And give us feedback, tell us what is missing, and we always love hearing it and want to find solutions.
All right, we are closing down on the SharePoint section. We've got a couple more minutes. So I've got 2 more questions, and then I've got a specific question that I want to make sure we cover, as I've seen it kind of mentioned across a couple of questions, just to hear more about what we're doing from a branding perspective. But the first question that I have from Susan is, there used to be a way to to save a site as a template. Is there a way to do that today or coming soon that will help me, if I have a really great site that I've set up, to save it as a template to repurpose going forward?
Yeah, so not today. It is a top ask that we hear all the time. We have been working towards this capability. One of the things we were waiting for, I hope that you've heard about our Pages API that'll be going into GA in the early fall. Pages API enables us to be able to create pages programmatically. So with Pages API, I think you'll continue to see our templating functionality evolve. And we do hope to get that save site as template or similar functionality back into the product, but we do not have a timeline for that yet. But we do hear you about the request there.
All right, so last question. I'm going to throw this at Dave, unless it's helpful with Kathy to answer as well. There's always been this motion of document sets in SharePoint. Pretty well-established feature for many years. And as we moved into the modern era, the question from Joe is, when will document sets get the real true welcome page integrated into the modern UI? Is there any plans that we can share, or work that maybe isn't yet complete with document sets, where that welcome page would be something that they have access to?
We on the within the pages area don't have any plans for that right now. I think we would have to volley this question over to our files colleagues and see what work they're doing in doc sets. Kathy,
it's actually the syntax team, and we did chat about this recently. I don't know if they have a current plan for that update, but they are definitely looking at document sets. They do hear the feedback coming in from our customers, from all of you, about how you're using document sets and the requests to make that more modern. So I know that they are looking at that from the syntax side.
So just to be real clear, a number of the times you've heard either Dave or Kathy refer to the OneDrive team or the syntax team. These are all very closely related teams that have been building off of SharePoint. but sometimes the specific scenarios, use cases, sometimes whole product categories are managed by other teams or taken over by other teams. And the Syntex brand really should represent that deeper level enterprise content management where you would experience or use the document sets going forward. Or if you use them, that's where the innovation is going to come from. So last question, and then we're going to quickly move on. In 30 seconds, Kathy, can you just share a little bit of some of the branding future in terms of Branding Center and some of the granular features? I know I'm only giving you 30 seconds, but what would be your pitch to roll us out into OneDrive talking about branding?
Yeah, I think for the branding space, like we're really excited to deliver a brand center where you can centrally manage these assets and have them show up in sites. And we're truly excited about taking sites and pages forward to give you more creativity and control and options when it comes into it. So over the next year and year plus, you will see evolving custom fonts, new font applications into your sites and pages. You'll see new colors, new layout options. So we're really excited about what's going to be coming from the Brand Center perspective.
That's awesome. Well, let us cut over into OneDrive. Dave and Kathy, thank you for taking the questions. There are more questions for SharePoint in the Tech Community Live page. If you have a chance to go during this 90-minute section, that you can go and continue to engage and answer questions. And we'll move in and we'll bring in Carter Green and Michaela Barrett from the OneDrive team. And we'll start to tee up some of those file questions that maybe are most appropriate for OneDrive, but also dig into things like sync and a lot of other things that are focused from the OneDrive team. So real quick, Michaela, Carter, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us, Mark. Thanks for having us, community. So we're happy to be here.
Super excited to be here. Thanks, Mark.
Absolutely. So we'll move into showing some of your slides so we can get a couple of minutes from your perspective. What is new with OneDrive?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. And once we get that going, we want to show, there we go.
Nice.
I'll start this one more time and then it's off to you, Michaela.
Perfect. Yeah. So what you're looking at is the OneDrive that we know and love. But that was back in 2017 when we launched something new. So what you're seeing now is a complete visual overhaul that we're bringing to OneDrive. This is built on top of the Fluent design language that's consistent across all of Microsoft 365. And when we were focusing on this, we really wanted to take a step back and focus on things to get you to your content sooner. Additionally, we wanted to deliver things that had personal touch and feel. This includes what you're seeing now with the ability to customize the colors of your folders so that you can have them look whatever color you need, which is super exciting. And so we've also gone through, and the video is kind of quick, but we went through and simplified our commanding and navigation system as well. Now, we are launching so many new things that I had a really hard time deciding what to show in these 2 minutes that I have. So I picked two things that I wanted to highlight. The first is what we're seeing here, which is the people view. We know that it's easier to remember what content you got by remembering who shared it with you, who created it, who is that person that you were collaborating with it on. And so what you're looking at here is a view that shows you all of your different content organized by the people that you work with. And the people that you work with the most, you can pin them right to the top so that you can find them easily. Now, the second thing that I wanted to show is the meetings view. We know that a ton of collaboration happens inside of a meeting. And so what we're delivering is a view inside of OneDrive that shows you all of the content related to a meeting. That includes the recordings from Teams. It includes all of the documents shared in chat or shared in the meeting invite, as well as everything throughout the history of that meeting if it's a reoccurring event like you see here. We have weeks of content inside of it. So no more scrolling through the history of a chat to try to find that document that someone shared with you. I'm going to hand it off to Carter to walk through some of the sync updates that we have.
Yeah, one of the major updates that we did to the website is to be able to open up your files in a native application. And so this is a new command on the website that allows you to open up a file open up a PDF in a native PDF editor. So you can see here that we actually are editing it, we can save it, and then when we close it, where did it save to? You can come back here to the website, refresh the page, we can open up, and you can see that the change there is in the web. And so immediately this allows all types of files to be able to be opened in native Windows applications from the website. So this is a new command that we're bringing to the command set of the web of open in app. It's powered by the sync engine. You need the sync client to be running to be able to do this, but it'll be available in public preview, I believe, next month in July. So with that, Michaela and I went through quite a few things. We have a lot more. This is a roadmap of this summer as well as till the end of the end of the calendar year, with a lot of changes coming. And so we wanted to sort of leave this up for you, but I think mainly cover the fact that there's a lot coming. And if you have questions, now is the time to ask, I think.
I think this is the right time to ask. 2 notes for our producers. If you can leave this slide up just for a little bit so people can get a sense of what the news was, but also maybe some of the prompts for questions that they might have.
Yeah, it is a lot of text.
And it's okay. This is also where we want to, if you can put under the aka.ms/m365/May2/OneDrive, and that'll take you to a blog that the team published on May 2nd that will go through a lot of these. They also have visual cues so you can see screenshots and videos, and also links if you want to go learn more about when. There's links to the roadmap items. So kind of based on one of the things that you showed is the first question that I saw that I'm going to throw at you, which was that open in app experience. And in your demo, Carter, it showed opening up directly in a PDF editor experience, which we know as Acrobat. And some of the work that the Adobe team is doing with the partnership with Microsoft makes that all possible. And there's wonderful work that you and team are doing to do that in a more direct and, of course, browser-based experience. The question that I saw, and then I'll go tackle what the next question is, was, can I do that in the link that I share with somebody? When I share a link that's a link to a PDF file in OneDrive, can I share it in a way where it opens up in that edit experience? That was the question.
Yeah, so as you sharing links, we know as you tap on it, it'll bring you to the website immediately. And so from that website, you will need to browse and go to the file location or go and find that command. And then once you are in the file location of that, so for like a PDF, you'll be brought up to the viewer, or for an AutoCAD file, you'll be brought to the viewer. You'll want to go and look for the command of open in app, and then you'll be able to open that up into a native application. It can be the native Windows Paint app, it can be AutoCAD, or it can be another type of native Windows application. So it is not just through PDF, but it is through all different Windows applications. And you will be able to get that through your share link.
All right, I'm going to stick this next question, I believe, with Carter, just from the history that I know of what you work on. And it's a specific question around Windows 11. It may be an item that's already been fixed. But from Dennis, he was asking, is there a timeline to fix the OneDrive sync sign-in issue on Windows 11? And if you can be explicit on what is the issue, if it still exists, or if it's known, and if there's any timeline or anything, insights that you can share.
Yeah, so from Windows 11, there's 2 different ways that we can sign in. There is an issue today within the commercial side of authentication that we are relying on the silent account configuration policy that admins are still able to roll out. I saw this comment. I think I included a link to that, but I will go back and make sure that the link is there. From a commercial side, there will be changes coming out this summer so that it can be automatically signed in, and that will be able to capture those credentials for you. And so we're hoping to improve the Windows 11 experience. Windows all up. It's Windows 10 and Windows 11 experience all up. From a consumer standpoint, sign-in should be enabled for you by default, and it shouldn't be an issue. And so if there's a clarification that you can add there in the question, I can follow up.
Oh, that's great. I think you've given them plenty to think about. But it's also good that you, of course, know the answer, so they at least are aware that it's a known issue and it's something that the team is working on. The next one is around more of an admin feature. So Michaela, in terms of either SharePoint admin online experience or now with OneDrive in the SharePoint admin experience, this is more when somebody leaves the company for a variety of reasons. It could be, a common practice, or if somebody needs to leave in a hurry because of some issues that they have. When somebody is in the practice of giving user B access to user A's OneDrive, in the case when user A is leaving the company, they're going through the SharePoint admin to grant access, but the process is a little bit cumbersome. Is there any work planned or any thoughts that you have in terms of when somebody leaves the company to be able to retrieve or access on behalf of another person's OneDrive?
I love this question because it's something that came up a lot at the M365 conference too. I completely hear you that it is a very tough experience. And we don't have anything publicly announced yet, but there is work going on to make this experience better. So I don't have any crisp timelines or dates to share, but it is something that Carter and my team is working on due to feedback from folks saying that this is really hard and challenging to use. So stay tuned. Hopefully, maybe closer to around the Ignite timeframe, we might have a little bit crisper actions to release at that time.
All right, it looks like we're going back to a sync question, but it's also kind of a file length question. And this is from Peter, and I'll try to get it right here. Are there any plans to get rid of the sync feature in SharePoint and Teams and allow only the link option? And I'm just going to add the caveat of, would somebody be able to control their preference versus it not being there for them?
Yeah, so this is the capability within shared libraries or doc libraries or sync within OneDrive. Up in the command bar, there's a command that says sync. And there's also a new command bar option that says add to OneDrive. The add to OneDrive capability is the future, let's just say it. But what it does is it brings the capability of having a shortcut folder added to your OneDrive root to go to that destination. That then syncs down and you'll be able to see all that content within your native file browser like File Explorer or Finder. The capability to hide the sync button so that you don't sync it down as a shared library is there at a site level. And so there is a policy that you can go in as a site admin and remove the sync button so that only your users will see the add to OneDrive folder. That's only available today at a site level. There is plans going on this next semester to be able to fully roll that out so that we can remove the sync button for everyone. But today, our recommendation is to use add to OneDrive, use shortcut folders, and then at a site level, have your admin be able to control that.
And I'm going to put a little plug in. We did a podcast episode with Gaia, who works with Carter pretty closely with all things sync. And we also had another member from the product sync team, the sync product team, that was all about the variants of when you would want to use add to OneDrive and the sync button. And part of that was the removal of the sync button by a PowerShell command. So there's some new documentation that's available. There's a great podcast, just to be selfishly aware of advertising that podcast episode. But it was a really great talk around what the team is working on and the design of the future, but also some of the ways that you can control your environment, even if it's currently with PowerShell, to be able to remove that sync button where appropriate. All right, so this next one is a little bit back to the open in app. The question was, based on what you showed, there was the open a PDF in the Adobe experience. When you think about other apps, what is the design of how we're enabling opening things like AutoCAD files or other applications that may not be Adobe or Microsoft, but just in general, opening in-app? What are some of the requirements for both how we're enabling that technology and some of the different file types, if we can talk about any?
Yeah, we're looking, so let's start. What are some of the requirements? Like I said before, the sync client needs to be running. This is using sync technology to be able to go and grab that file, bring it down to the system, and then you will be given, to sort of answer your question, what type of file types. If we don't have a default picker, a default application, you'll be given the native Windows file picker whole experience, so that you can go and pick the file. I think Notepad opens up all files because it can open up any type of bitstream, but you'll be able to pick a file, and so pick an application. So you could pick a Photoshop, you could pick any type of PDF, you could pick any native application that supports files to be opened into it. So if you have a video editing software and you're wanting to open up an MP4 in it, or if you're wanting to open up a DICOM file into a technical medical imaging application, you can, any type of file that can be opened in a native application can be opened via this way. If you don't have a native Windows application that can open the file, then you'll still see the open an app functionality, but it'll open up to a pretty much an empty file application picker. And so you won't have the supported, it'll probably send you to the Windows store to go find another application for it. But yeah, it is going to be available with the sync client installed and running, because it is using sync to sync it down and sync it back up. But you don't need to have that location synced. It can be on any location across your M365 world.
Excellent, excellent. I hope that was a great answer based on the question that you had. If it wasn't, please re-ask and make sure we're drilling in on the proper thing that you came to have answered today. But thanks, Carter, for that. From Greg, it may be a sync question, but Michaela, I also thought it might be an opportunity to talk about some of the Nucleus technology. But there was the broader question of improving the speed of sync for the local copies that are on their hard drive. For example, a Word document saved as a PDF, if there's that action that they're taking. What are some of the things that we're doing with Nucleus that will help the speed of sync for an end user? And if there's anything specific to the sync client or the Office cache that we're doing that we can help articulate. But I thought, give an opportunity to talk about speed and some of the work we're doing within Nucleus.
Yeah, absolutely. And I might hand back off to Carter after talking about Nucleus on exactly how the sync client's speed is getting faster. So for those who are not familiar, Nucleus is our kind of code name for the technology that powers offline support for our web apps. And we are bringing it into files. So if you've ever played around with a Microsoft list, you will see that the Nucleus kind of pops on and supports your content offline. And so we're bringing that into files so that, say that you're going to go on an airplane, or maybe you're going to work from a remote cabin. You can have your OneDrive work offline in the way that you would expect it to and be able to load all of your content. And one of the biggest changes that we see here isn't necessarily the offline support, but it provides an incredibly fast experience inside of the OneDrive product. And so then I'm gonna go to Carter on the sync performance. It sounds like the question was specific to like a PDF on the hard drive that needs to get synced.
I think the framing of the question was, is there work being done to help accelerate the sync experience? And then the scenario was, if I'm in Word and I output and save it as a PDF, how quickly that would show up for them to be able to then leverage, I think is more the scenario.
Yeah. So there's always work being done in sync fundamentals to improve it across our endpoints. One of the things that I will say that can help with this is we did roll out a feature recently that is called differential sync. What that does is it allows the ability to look at a change in a file and just sync the changes, not the whole file if it changes. So if you're working with a large 100 megabytes or multiple 100 megabytes, it won't change, it won't sync the whole file and take up that in the bandwidth, but it'll just take the delta. The other thing that I will say is we are doing work actually now to improve the capability of identifying when new files are detected in the sync route, and new files are detected in the sync route, and make sure that we can sync those files up immediately. And so we're doing that work, just improving upon the work that's already there. But that performance is always top of mind for us. So thank you for bringing that to our attention.
That's great. So 2 quick questions. I think maybe both of these to Michaela, but you tell me. The first question is kind of a for every team, but it's been asked a couple of times. When will these features make it to the government cloud? And maybe it's a what is the expected time frame if it doesn't land at the same time?
Yeah, absolutely. I can tackle that one. So if there's a feature that for whatever reason cannot go to the government cloud, you will see that kind of alert on the message center post. And from everything that we had just shown in those super short clips, we will release to the government cloud at the same incremental stage that we release to the general public. So the short answer is you should expect to see it rolling out through the same cadence at the schedule that we publish for just the launch of the feature. And then if there's an exception or something that is unique to the government cloud or, the high-low different speeds, we will call that out explicitly in the message center post and the roadmap ID so that you're aware if there's a delay or something coming.
Yeah, and this one comes top down, bottom up, side to side. There's a lot of interest in being more explicit about when things are coming to the government clouds. And there are, of course, a number of different clouds. So I think the OneDrive team is adhering to that. I know all the other teams are doing it because they work through the same release cadence. But absolutely top of mind to be a lot more transparent. If the timing is different, is when you're usually going to see something that's going to be a specific note for GCC customers. The last question, and then I want to give a plug to your office hours, and you can tell me who this is best for. It's a quick one. They really like the idea of colored folders. Sounds great. Looking forward to it. Will that be reflected in the Windows Explorer experience at some time? What's the thoughts there?
I'll take that one. I love the question. I love the idea and the thirstiness for having it in File Explorer. I will tell you that we're looking into it. We don't think that it is a web-only feature. We do believe that it is a OneDrive feature. And so nothing to say today, but thank you for the thirstiness, and I hear your feedback.
So by nothing, you're saying everything. Thank you, Michaela, and thank you, Carter. Michaela, we're going to keep you for the next section. Carter, thanks, and you'll see a lot of great feedback that you're seeing, questions, additional ones that we didn't get to that are on the Tech Community Live page. For the producers, if you can share my screen, I'm going to show one last thing for OneDrive as a plug, and then I'll move to some slides, and then we'll bring Michaela back up. This is introducing today, and they've been doing this, I think, for 1 or 2 months, is from the OneDrive team. They offer customer office hours, and there's a post by Vishal, who is helping manage that with Paul Diamond, who you see here as the author. But if you go to the OneDrive Tech Community blog, you'll see this post. It's a really great time to recurringly, anytime you have a question, to bring it directly to the product team. And if you fill out a form, you'll see when they're posting and having these office hours. And it's a really great way to engage with the team, ask questions, provide feedback. And it's something that's seen as a best practice for other teams to follow, just as a FYI. This is both good visibility internally, and it's a really great thing externally. So if that link can be shared in some fashion during this broadcast, that would be great. We know it's a long URL here at the top, but I want to move us into the next section, which is talking about lists. And we'll get there. So Michaela, we'll bring you back to talk about lists. And I'm here to help you as well, because we know there are a lot of list questions. You can tackle them all, and I'll diligently dive in. But just to raise awareness of everybody on the call, there is also a great blog post that our peer Lincoln Damaris posted, and AKA link that we wanted to share before we dive into talking with Michaela a little bit to learn about list announcements. The full blog is at aka.ms/m365/May2/lists. And that'll take you to the primary blog that we made a lot of announcements on May 2nd, and it gives a lot of color and flavor to some of the things that Michaela will hear, but the breadth of everything that was announced by that team. So Michaela, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Yes, I work on both OneDrive and lists, so I am super excited to be here again.
I was expecting you to have one hat in the last section and then switch hats into this section.
I should have put on my list hoodie.
It's okay. We know you've got list socks. We know you got a list beanie. You guys made a beautiful list sweatshirt that looked like a really nice ice cream cone. But beyond some of the swag, let's get into the announcements. I'm going to click forward for you, and then
Sure.
you tell me where to drive.
Yeah, perfect. So yeah, I'm Michaela, and I am super excited to show you some of the new updates that we're bringing to Microsoft Lists. So we'll go ahead and click to the next video and let it play. I want you to notice that the overall design of the way a list is rendered has been updated. We're bringing things in like filter pills and view tabs so that you can see what's going on inside of your list. And one of the biggest improvements that we're bringing to this product is live collaboration. So this helps you and your team stay in sync. So as you work with your colleagues together in a list, you'll actually see them appear and see who's editing which cell or who's actually typing as you're going through. And so it's one of the most exciting changes that we're bringing to the product, I think, since I've been working on the product.
Yeah, it's great to see this co-authoring in the SharePoint pages, co-authoring in lists. That's a lot of co-authoring.
Yeah, we want you guys to collaborate. We're bringing features to help it. Now, one of the things that we're super aware about is a list is only as good as the data that's inside of it. And so we want to make it easier than ever to collect information through a new forms experience that's built right inside of Microsoft Lists. So if we play this video here, you can create and manage multiple forms for the same list with this new experience that we're delivering. And one of the things I want to call out there is that, yes, the different forms for the same list can have different sharing permissions. So one can be for external customers or external clients. One can be for internal within your own team. Now you can customize the fields to show exactly what you need. And then since these forms are easily shared and integrated right into Microsoft Lists, as that data gets filled in from whoever you share this out with, it comes in directly to the list. You see those real-time edits come in, and it's a new way to get data into the content or into the list that you're using, which is really exciting. And as I mentioned in the last section, it's hard to pick just a 5-minute highlight here. So I'm going to conclude my demo part of this with 3 productivity capabilities that we're bringing to you in your list, because after you get all that good data inside of it, we want you to do more with the list and feel like you have the power to leverage the data in ways that make sense to you and your team. So if we go ahead and click to the next slide, we are building or releasing a new ratings feature where you can easily track the average rating of each item on your list and quickly see that visual representation. And then our calendar view now has a new layout, so you can see your items in a weekly view, as well as the ability to customize the colors. Now we're bringing the next level of capability to your list by allowing organizations to package Power Automate flows directly into your custom organizational templates. So with schema and views, formatting, automation, all working together, these templates become more powerful than ever to help drive that efficiency across your team. And so that's the last. We're ready to kind of open it up for those Q&As. I've been watching the board diligently to see so many questions coming in.
I was going to say, you might already have one that's top of mind that you just want to start with. I'll just say one thing before we move into the Q&A. I think it's wonderful, the work that's being done in OneDrive and Lists to make them visually compelling. If you are somebody that colorizes with the expectation of some color means something, for those that work in that way, it's great to see the calendar now landing with colors, because that's just how my brain works. But also to see the colors that are in the folders for OneDrive. I think it's a lot of great work, and I think it really gives a lot of people options for when I'm working with files or information. It just helps me clue into what is that file or what is that piece of information, what's that list item. So I just want to give you some self kudos for those choices that the team is making to make that a lot more visual.
Well, it's wonderful to hear. Yeah, thank you.
I'll let you drain the roadmap, and then I've got my first question.
Yes. The last slide, is it showing? I don't see it on
Yep.
there.
Yep. Sorry.
Oh, there you go.
We're back.
This roadmap also has a lot of text on it. Again, we only showed a snippet. My personal favorites is what we basically showed. So here's a roadmap that I wanted to share for everyone on the call of things that we shipped recently, things that are rolling out, and then this massive bottom section is where we're focusing a lot of our energy around what we're releasing this summer. And so that's what I focused on today. But here is kind of the comprehensive list of every single change that we're releasing and rolling out. Again, really leveraging the roadmap IDs and message center posts so that admins know when this is coming and at what time.
Yeah, so to our producers team, if you can leave this slide up just for a couple minutes and also bring back the AKA link to the lists blog post, that's aka.ms/m365/May2/lists. And it'll take you to a nice blog post that was published in May that covers a lot of what you see here on the roadmap. But it's also a teaser for today to get your questions brewing in your head. But Michaela, the first question I wanted to throw at you was, with the new forms announcements, there was the, I don't know if I'd call it a concern, but there was the first question of, does this require any additional technology? And specifically, does it require Microsoft Forms? Does it require Power Apps? If you can just talk a little bit of how you're evolving and some of the moving parts that are in there with when people are using the new Forms technology in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a great question. And I think it will really help clarify some things. So the experience that I showed is completely inside of Microsoft Lists. So you do not need to use a Microsoft Form or Power Automate to build the experience that I showed. We are in very close partnership with those teams to make the experience down the road. Nothing in the roadmap or timelines to share there, but we work very closely together. But for the actual end user experience, there is no need to leave the list experience to build what I showed, which is so exciting. And it makes it a very, I say intuitive experience because all the field types are exactly the same as what you see in your list. The sharing dialog is the same as the list dialog. So no, it does not require you leaving the Microsoft List app at all to get that experience.
That's great. I think that's the best answer. I think that the team could design around and deliver. But also, to be clear, there may be some scenarios where you do want to use lists with Power Apps, and that's completely supported. And certainly there's a lot of things that you can do with solutions around lists as the data source. But this is a very unique native offering that I think will make a lot of the list information collection scenarios a lot easier, both inside and outside of Microsoft, of the Microsoft tenant that you have. So this question comes from Robert. And he's asking a question I've heard asked before, so see what your thoughts are here, Michaela. Are recurring events for lists on the roadmap? And they describe a little bit more about their scenario around where they'd like to have this be something that they could leverage. But maybe talk through thoughts around how the team has maybe heard this before or what we might be thinking about it.
Absolutely. I was also reading that comment as we were going through here. Thanks for the question, Robert. That is something that we hear feedback on a lot. It is not something that we have in our roadmap, which basically means we're not building it actively. But we do hear this scenario, and it's something that we want to think deeply about. The other scenario that we get a lot of kind of thoughts around are, recurring events, and then also this concept of a single item might have multiple events attached to it, maybe an interview loop or something where there's 4 or 5 actual interview dates for one candidate. So bringing in that full functionality is something that we are thinking deeply about, but I don't have anything on the roadmap or timelines to share around that.
The next question, I think we have some good thought exercise and some ideas to share. This is from Teresa. She's asking, can you share with external users by email address without them being a guest user in the tenant and without opening the form to anyone on the internet?
So the first part of that question is yes. Using our share dialog inside of lists, there's an option where you can say share with anyone, and that's something that we kind of call like an anonymous sharing or anyone link. And some companies actually turn that off for their company. So just to be aware, you maybe want to check with your IT department to make sure that if you see that option grayed out, that's why. And then for opening the form, when you share that experience with someone, you can configure if you want them to be able to edit. So if you don't want them to be able to edit, you can kind of turn that off, and then they won't be able to open up the form or add items to it. So you have a lot of permutations inside of the share dialog where you can achieve, I think from reading the question, everything that you need.
So the next two, I think, are questions that might be one of those questions that are answered with absolutely. But you will tell me. This is from Jennifer. All the list changes sound great. Is there a plan to include other calendar views like monthly? And maybe
We
you can
already
just
have it.
describe.
I'm so yeah, the announcement to weekly is exciting because we've been living in a monthly only world. So we have monthly and we have day, and we are launching weekly based off of a lot of requests to see that weekly view. I think that's how a lot of people work in their work week. So yes, we have it. Go try it out today.
That's awesome. So just to be very clear, when you go and create a view, if you want to use the calendar view, you can now choose between month or week, but also once you have the view created, you can switch between the two dynamically. So I think the team is doing a lot of great work there, especially where you saw in the demo the ways of being able to move items in the calendar view and some of the colors coming through. If you're using some of the formatting, that shines right through. The next one is more of an accessibility question. This is from Catherine. She said that the lists are very mouse dependent. Are there keyboard commands that control where the mouse goes or where my cursor is so that I can use more keyboard commands than mouse and clicking?
This question warms my heart because we spend so much time as a product team trying to, not only make our products accessible with, the commitment that Microsoft has made to accessibility, but to actually go beyond just, the legal requirement of being accessible, to actually make it a keyboard first experience. So the answer to the question in short is yes, absolutely. And one of the ways that we're really indexing on that experience is something that I didn't show, but was in the roadmap. For new lists that are created, new blank lists, we're actually going to open them in the inline editing experience, which is an extremely keyboard centric way to create and edit items. And that is something that we've been working on kind of for the last few years to bring that into the confidence where we think making it kind of that default new experience is ready. And so it is. Obviously, we're always open to feedback, and this is something that we don't really get a ton of feedback on. So I'm excited to hear that you're asking about it. But our goal with that is to really make sure that keyboard first users can create, edit, delete, do everything they need to do within the list without ever having to touch the mouse. And moving towards that inline editing is our first step there.
All right, so talking about inline editing specific to a text column, this is the question from Justin. When will the list column formatting support rich text formatted of multiple line of text columns?
Ooh.
Yeah.
I believe, if I understand this question correctly, I believe we actually already have it. It's a little bit hidden though, which I love that feedback. So we're going to try to explain this verbally. If you go into your text field, your multi-line text field, there's more options in the column settings where you can turn on the rich text editor. And to get real geeky here, the rich text editor that we support in lists is actually the same that OA uses, so Outlook. So it's the consistent rich text editing experience that you see across all of Microsoft. And, this is actually provoking me where we've gone back and forth on making the rich text editor the default all the time. So throw in the comment if you think that would be a good change, because to me, it seems like we should maybe start with that and you have to turn it off if you don't like it.
Yeah, I would +1 that because a lot of people, when you showed the video of being able to drag an image into an image column, that's mind-blowing if you've ever used lists in the past. Mind-blowing in the sense of that's crazy town that it can be done in this near future. But I do think a lot of people expect that if they have a notes column or if they have something that's meant to be a hyperlink within the context of other text or highlighting and bold and to answer your question, just a little bit of color comment on top of what Michaela said is it is supported and it really is a rich text environment. There's a lot that you can do. If you turn that little checkbox on, it really does become a canvas that is like almost a little mini Word document that is a part of your list as that single column. So it's a really great feature and it's really well leveraging some of the existing technology to make it a consistent editor experience. I think this is a great top level one from Reese. This is asking about, are the features in this video the same in SharePoint lists, or are these features only for the lists app itself? And I'm going to add one little additional comment here to ask you, Michaela. Is it also the same that I might see in the Microsoft account preview, which we call the MSA preview? So wherever I'm working with lists, are these features only bound for one destination, or
They are bound for all destinations. We are releasing these, for a little history here. The back end of Microsoft Lists is the same wherever you see the list product. So whether it is on a SharePoint web part, whether it's a list that's rendered inside of SharePoint, whether it's something in the list app, and even mobile, it's all connected to the same back end. So technically, we always refer to it as the same product. And so we want the front end experience to reflect that truth. So these are changes that we are bringing into that entire back end and front end experience there. So the hope is, wherever you want to use a list, Teams is probably the most common place that we get questions about. So whether you want to use your list inside of Teams or the list app or on SharePoint, the experience will be the same. And so we're hoping that it provides the flexibility to end users to just work where they feel comfortable and where they're used to, and not having to kind of, remember a URL for list, or having to think about it, just kind of interacting with the product wherever it makes sense for them and their team.
That's excellent. I will just summarize, since we couldn't have our team member Lincoln Damaris here. I have heard him say in the public, a list is a list is a list. And then he has this skull and he says, "Dear Yorick, I once bore," then he goes into some other tirade. But list is a list is a list. It's great to hear that from Michaela, but also if you aren't seeing that, or you see areas where there is a difference, we would love to know, because the intent is for it to be a singular product that you have multiple entry points to across work, across life, across applications, screens, all of that goodness. The next one is, I think, an important one. I've heard this question before. This is from Amanda. If you have a list on one site, you can't embed it on another. Are there any plans to allow displaying lists across sites? And again, the little addition here is any activity from list to list that aren't in the same site. Any thoughts and plans there?
Yeah, this question is kind of related to another experience that we get asked frequently, which is, can I move a list or can I copy a list? And the answer right now in the current world is no. We do not have a way for customers to move lists, whether it's between site collections, or if it's something that it's a personal list and they're trying to move it into a SharePoint site. We do not support that at this time, which we know is a pain point. It's a pain point for me. I run almost my daily activities on lists. So we are hearing that feedback. And as soon as we have a timeline or an update to share on making that experience better for you, we absolutely will. But at this time, we do not have any dates or timelines to share. But just a reality of where we are right now in the product space.
Yes, reality indeed. I want to take a second here just to reiterate as we close down. There is that great blog that we talked about. That's the lists announcements blog. I want to give Michaela just the last 30 seconds here. Is there anything that we haven't yet talked about that you didn't show, something that you're working on and the team will be delivering soon, that gets you most excited just to get what the feedback is going to be and hopefully then a ton of use of?
That's a great question. I think something that we haven't talked about that I do think is going to be very interesting is the approvals experience, which I know is shipped inside 2 of our templates. But I'm really thrilled to see how customers start integrating kind of this lightweight automation inside of their experiences. This is part of our kind of our templating ecosystem. So the approvals inside of Teams hooks up with lists, and it's one of my favorite features that we've built. And I'm thrilled to hear what people are seeing and experiencing with that, because I think it's going to be a really revolutionary way into how we set up these powerful automations without anyone needing to do anything, right? You just build the list and it works. And so I'm curious to hear feedback on that.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Michaela, for wearing 2 hats. There, of course, are a lot of questions, both for OneDrive and lists. If you have time, at least to be able to review, bring the feedback back to the teams.
Yes.
I'm really excited both that your role is expanding and that you're engaged across both products. It's really great to have you here today, but also really great to have you focused in making those better over time. If we can share my screen again, one more thank you to Michaela. And I want to just answer one question before we move on and bring up Mark Mraz from the stream team. I saw a question posted a couple of times, and I saw that Katie Erlandson, who was on the podcast, there was just the question of, can you send the link or at least identify the podcast that we referenced that was the Add to OneDrive episode of the Interzone, where we talked to Katie and Gaia about sync versus add to OneDrive. So Katie posted in there a link that will take you right to what I'm showing you. And of course, if you want to view it and listen to it on the page, you can. You can also subscribe or just go into the Interzone feed. Not too hard to find. The title of the episode is Add to OneDrive. And there's a great 30 to 40 minutes where we talk about all the things that you should think about now and going forward from Katie and Gaia. So switching gears, would love to now turn your attention to Microsoft Stream. And on with us today is Mark Mraz from the Stream team. Mark, I'm going to turn it over to you because I know you're going to be driving some slides and demos. I think our first live demos of the day. So if we can switch over first, let's make sure Mark is on the call, which I know you are, and just do a quick intro.
Hey everyone, Mark Mraz. I'm a product manager on Microsoft Stream as part of the Office Media Group. So excited to be here today, show you a few things about Microsoft Stream, some new things, some existing things, and then launch into answering all the questions that you guys have been posting. I've been doing my best to answer directly into the chat, but happy to answer questions. So I'm going to demo live here today. So go ahead, Mark.
I was just going to say, just before you get started, just so everybody has it and can watch what you're showing and then go review later. If from the production team, right now we have the AKA link up. It's aka.ms/m365/May2/stream. And that will take you to the latest Stream announcements blog from May that has a lot of what Mark is showing and more, including a lot of links to be able to learn about the when. But Mark, let's see it. Let's see it in action.
Yeah, awesome. So I'm going to be demoing here live from a real system here. This is in one of our dog food environments. This is stream.office.com. We call it the Stream Start page. Many of you may have seen it in the past. It has a few updates that I'll share with you as well. We've pulled our upload, record, and playlists right big to the top so that people know how to get them. One of the newer things we've also added as well is being able to, when you upload, before just uploaded that video directly into OneDrive, but now we have this little pop-up here where you can actually change your location, and instead of uploading all your videos through the start page into OneDrive, I can actually pick a SharePoint site and put it in a specific folder and upload that video directly into that specific folder. And as I do that, it's actually going to give me a progress bar now as well, so that I can actually upload those files and see what's happening. So that's a really good addition to a simple feature to be able to use the start page to upload videos. And remember, the start page is not a video portal. We're moving from a model where was Stream Classic that was kind of a video portal on its own, and we're moving to this model where videos are just in the flow of your everyday work. And so that is a big mental shift and change for people. But remember that this start page is a way to get back to files for you yourself. There's some recommendations up here. You can see all recently opened, shared with you. I can even favorite. I'll show you that coming up soon as well. But the start page is a way to get back to content. And I'll show you in a little bit how to feature videos as well. I'm going to turn off my camera really quickly so that I can show you our camera directly in Stream. And so here I'm going to click now on the recording tab. And when I click on the recording tab, we built an entire, let me see if I can retry the camera. I guess it did not like the fact that I had camera on in both locations. But we could, I guess I'll skip some of this sort of stuff. I can't show you necessarily the screen recording and that sort of stuff, but the camera has all kinds of inking. It has all kinds of text, stickers. You can add you can do a teleprompter here where you can put in your script, and your camera would come up and you can do screen sharing with your camera and your screen together. Just hitting a little bit glitch here because we're streaming live at the same time, but tons of cool improvements from the camera itself. And so, I'll move on from camera and just show you a little bit of the video player page. This is the video player page we call the Stream web app. We've made lots of improvements over the last year or so, some new ones in the last few months. You can now favorite and unfavorite videos directly from the player page. So if you just click add to favorite, that then causes that video to show up right here on the Stream start page under favorites, and it'll show in the new OneDrive home capabilities that we saw easily before as well. You can launch into doing that camera recording, screen recording, and uploading directly from in here. And we have a bunch of new capabilities that have come from around comments, where now you can like comments, you can put a time code, and then it will just jump the video to that specific point in the video. So you can do those all with app mentions, liking, and doing all those sorts of things. Transcripts, we've added a couple of common things that are really helpful to people. People really wanted to be able to download parts of the transcript itself as a document, not just as a VTT. So small little kind of changes have come there recently. And then we have a bunch of these analytics capabilities right here, where you can see the analytics of right on top of the video and kind of show which where people viewed, where they didn't view, and which parts of the video they viewed. And we're working on even more of these analytics to come shortly. And then finally, I'll show you really quickly here a bunch of capabilities that came with SharePoint pages and web parts. Some of these are existing that have been for a while. Some of them are a bit new. But as I mentioned before, that Stream Start page isn't a video portal. The way to create video portal type experiences is to build them on top of SharePoint with pages and web parts. So here at the top of my page, I'm just using the hero web part. And when I put a video into that hero web part, I could click it, and that video plays directly in line inside of that page. So you can make really great experiences from that. I can use the file and media web part to play that video directly in line on the page if I wanted to do so. Or I could use the highlighted content web part and pull out videos that are either the most recently uploaded to a site across a set of sites, or I can even tag up the document library with different metadata and pull out just those videos for those specific metadata. And then finally, updated recently here. Let's see if my page can load better. Let me hit reload on this page. But we've added playlists. Playlists is a capability built on Microsoft Lists, which we just heard a ton about. And playlists allow you to add a bunch of videos into that list, and you can send people directly to that playlist. Or now the list web part actually works inside of SharePoint, where I can add the list web part into a page, and now I can see a really great experience where as I click on those videos, they'll play right in line inside of this page, and I can jump around and put videos directly there for people to see. So this plus a bunch more that have coming in that blog post around an updated Stream web part, a new concept from SharePoint called video pages, so you can read the blog on a bunch of those capabilities. But I just wanted to give you kind of a whirlwind tour of what is possible today already from Stream. And then I'll put just one last call out. If you enjoy these kind of calls like this, where the product group just answers your questions, you can join our customer office hours. If you go to aka.ms/streamconnect, you'll get to this page here where you can actually sign up for our office hours. And we do these twice a month, where we just have an entire hour time where we have engineers, PMs, designers directly on the call, and we just answer your questions about Stream, about the migration coming. So invite you to sign up for those if you're not a part of that. So Mark, if we want to jump into questions from there, that was kind of a really quick tour.
That was the fastest Stream demo I've ever seen you give, Mark. And I just want to say my favorite feature recently is the ability to edit the captions in line, because I often start off some of my videos by saying, "Hi, I'm Mark Cashman, blah, blah, blah." And I always have to go in and adjust the Cashman. They always spell it with a C. Just so you know, they spell Mark always with a K. I think that's because it knows it's the proper way to spell Mark. But don't take any offense to that. But I do always have to go and change Cashman from a C to a K. And I really love that I can do it just literally within a click. So thank you for doing that. So the first question that I see here is from Leland, and he's asking two questions that I think are pretty well connected. Now that Stream is moving to SharePoint, will we be able to do anything, A, audit the information about who has viewed the videos? And secondly, is there a way to password protect when you share a video so that somebody would be able to get the video but have to type in a password?
Yeah, so audit, I can kind of interpret that two different ways. One is kind of M365 audit logs, because videos are just files in SharePoint and OneDrive. All the events and the activities that happen on videos get logged to the M365 audit log, the same as any other file. So who accessed, when they deleted, when they changed, all of that goes into the M365 audit log. The other way I can interpret that is around kind of analytics, like who watched my video. And if you go to our help docs, there is actually an analytics section in there, and it shows you there's this hidden SharePoint feature that if you turn the SharePoint feature on, it'll actually list out who accessed a file, and that who accessed a file will also work for video files as well. And so you can turn that on today, and then you can actually see the list of who accessed your file. We're looking at, for this next few quarters, to pull that who looked at my file right up into the analytics, where I showed you a bunch of those analytics, where you can see views and visitors over time. We're going to pull and elevate that old hidden feature of SharePoint, put it directly onto the video player page. So that's also something that we're thinking about for the next few quarters.
That's awesome. I love the value of being on SharePoint. Means you get a lot of either default experiences that are new, or a lot of things that you can build on that take a lot less time to build and deliver. And I just have to say that ability to audit and pull logs, you might want to call the feature not just who accessed this file, but hey, who accessed that file? It can have a little bit of a tone to it if you want. So the next one is all around video editing. Does the future of Stream include more detailed video editing? It would be useful to be able to draw boxes or arrows around parts of the screen and include title and end slides. Bet you have a lot of thoughts here, maybe some other product names, but I wanted to throw that one at you for sure.
Yeah, so I wasn't able to do a great demo because of the dueling cameras, but in our camera itself, you can actually do annotations, you can add text, you can add overlays, you can add stickers, you can draw on the screen. So as you do like live, as you're recording yourself or recording the screen, you can do that already today with the camera. The second thing is we acquired a company called Clipchamp a few years ago. Clipchamp is a consumer solution right now, and if you haven't used it, I encourage you to use it. Go to clipchamp.com. We're bringing a version of that into M365 for enterprise. And so that they haven't announced the official dates and times, but that's coming this year. Hopefully it'll be out in preview sooner, and then full GA towards the end of the year to early next year timeframe. And so Clipchamp is going to be a really awesome way where you can do full video editing, add titles and graphics and music and all that sort of stuff. And then the third thing is that we're also working on in Stream itself two features. One feature is very lightweight soft trim, where people want to just trim heads and tails on a video, remove a section out of a meeting recording or something that everyone was chit-chatting in the beginning, but we don't need to see that. We just want to jump right into the meeting content. So we're working on a feature there that is not full video editing, but is really metadata soft trim, where editors would always see the full thing, but your viewers would just see the shrunken down version of it. And so that project is being worked on right now. People want to know when. We don't know when yet. We're working on it as fast as we can, and as soon as we have a reasonable time frame, we will share that on the roadmap. And then the third thing is that we are working on what we're calling kind of interactivity or annotations, where we can, in Stream Classic, we had the ability to add a form or a quiz at a specific point in time in a video. And so we're working to bring that back as well. And as we're doing that, we're also doing very simple like hot links, where you can add a little card on top of the video. It just pops up. It's not video editing, it's all metadata. And there's a link on there, and the users can click on that link. And so the combination of all those things, I think will have more than enough tools for people to kind of do lightweight editing and deep editing with Clipchamp in the future.
That's very cool. And I also love how the Stream technology is being leveraged for that purpose, but also in a lot of other areas like Viva Engage, Microsoft Teams meetings, wherever there is a video component. I think we're doing the right thing by betting on the Stream backend and some of those front end capabilities to control the access, the visibility, of course, the meeting itself, to be able to get rich information out of it. So I applaud a lot of what you're doing, and I really love to see it more of a singular approach, instances, through other instances. The next question comes from Jane. This is a migration question. And it says, "Hi guys, I won't be able to attend the event, but I do have a question regarding the reporting PowerShell, which provides a list of all videos in stream. First time, ran it, worked great, but subsequent times they were getting a forbidden error that was showing in the logs, and Jane references that she is a stream admin. Are you seeing any of that, or any things around migration where there are best practices for doing some of those audit and retrieval activities?"
Yeah, so that specific issue, haven't seen that specific issue happen before. It's not on our known issues list. So I think the suggestion there is to open up a support ticket, and we can have the support escalated up to us in the product group. We can have people look at it. But I'll also take this as an opportunity. If you go to aka.ms stream migration, there is a plethora of help documentation about the migration, about the timeline, about the tool. We have a section in there that is a release notes, basically like we list all the known issues of the migration, all the upcoming things, and we're being as transparent as possible to just like week by week share with you everything that comes in. And so all of that help documentation, you should be able to answer a lot of those questions. And if you can't, you can join our office hours. And so, as I mentioned before, if you go to aka.ms stream connect, that will allow you to join our office hours, and we can get deeper kind of questions going there.
Mark, is there any shorter link that you can share that takes people to review the progress that we're making with migration and the difference of feature sets and maybe even some of the timing? I know it's a great page, and we can provide the link in the chat later, but if there's a short one, if you say it verbally, we'll get it up on screen.
Yeah, I think most of our documentation is at aka.ms stream migration, which folks did pull up there. Or if you want to kind of look at like kind of difference between Stream Classic and Stream on SharePoint, you can just go to aka.ms stream roadmap. That one also as well kind of gives you a clear side-by-side comparison and links off to some deeper spreadsheets where we even say, here's what Stream Classic had, here's what the new Stream on SharePoint has. It's probably due for an update. I probably haven't updated it in a month or so, but yes, we're if you can't tell, we try to document really well so that you can answer your own questions, so that the new Bing Chat GPT stuff can find answers for you. Go ask it, and you can ask it questions about the migration and stream, and it knows a lot of stuff because of all the help documentation out there.
And I will say, just from what I've seen the team post, pretty much any stream blog post or any activity of outreach, you will see a link that is a way to engage with the team, a way to review whatever it is that the post is about in a very deep way. And that particular article I know is a really strong, good one that gets a lot of great feedback because it does answer a lot of those open questions. Two quick ones from Susan. There is the focus of analytics that you showed. Is there anything that we can expect from a next level of depth of analytics? They referenced Vimeo, their advanced analytics, the expectations I think that are being set in the public space. But anything around analytics that you can share, things that teams are thinking about, or common feedback that we're trying to fit into the schedule?
Yeah, we have a ton of analytics available today, way more than we had in Stream Classics on the video player pages we showed, and also in the site analytics as well. There's a bunch of site analytics because videos are files in that site. We get to accrue all those sorts of things. But beyond that, we are thinking of two specific things. We are building an advanced analytics capability. We haven't fully announced it. We haven't put it on the roadmap, but we are working and building that advanced analytics capability. It'll probably be premium. So you will have to, pay a little bit more for those capabilities when they come out. So that's kind of working. And some of that will look at like taking those site analytics and having a blowout of those site analytics just for video. So we could go deep across all your videos in a specific SharePoint site, comparing them, seeing things against each other. So that's one. The other one is today we aren't represented in the M365 admin dashboard, where you can kind of see storage requirements and high-level usage of a product. SharePoint, OneDrive files, Teams, all Yammer, Viva, Engage is all there. Stream doesn't get represented there, and so we're thinking about how could we represent ourselves in there, and that one would just be like all the other ones, capabilities that are there for free as part of your licensing. But then we are working on advanced capabilities that would give you a peek at site level analytics that are very video specific, and then we'll go on beyond that, downloads, exports, all those sorts of things. So we have an entire crew just focused on deeper analytics.
That's great. Well, we have time, 2 minutes left in the broadcast, and I want to have one that's an acceleration ask and then 2 quick questions. The acceleration ask is kind of like the playback speed. This is like moving playback from 1x to 2x. That's the ask, not necessarily the feature, but I think you'll get it. Susan is asking for the new stream web part that's coming for SharePoint that's scheduled to release in July, is cutting it a little close for organizations that are creating video portals to launch ahead of the August 15th classic upload cutoff. You may have a comment there, but I think the ask is, can you go a little faster because of the timing of the cutoff?
Yeah, we're trying to go as fast as we can, so feedback taken. Thank you.
Okay, 3x. The next is just a simple one, the stream migration. Will this soon be coming for GCC?
Yes, we're working on it as fast as we can. It's in partnership with the SharePoint Migration Manager team. The Migration Manager team has not deployed Migration Manager into GCC yet. So we're working with them on how and when they deploy it. And as soon as they deploy it, our code just has to follow right along right after. And so we're working on it as fast as we can. I don't know that we're ready to say the date yet that will happen, but as soon as we are ready, we will make announcements and we'll update all those documentation in the timeline.
All right, so this last one I think is a pretty quick one, but an important one in terms of where Stream is leveraged. This one is in Teams. When will the Stream Classic app from Microsoft Teams be disabled? And when will there be a new app for Stream on SharePoint that you can leverage inside of Microsoft Teams?
Yeah, we're working on it as fast as we can as well. I have not seen it working myself yet, but the team I think is supposed to be finishing up coding in the next month or two, and so hopefully we'll be able to put it out there. And that's both the Left Rail app and the Message Compose app. Both of them we're working on to replace. The Left Rail app will look like the Stream Start page that I started off demoing, so it'll kind of be that, but inside of Teams. And then the Message Compose one, we're thinking would also not just help you find a video and insert it into the chat, but it would also let you launch into the screen recording. So you could launch into our camera, do screen recording, and then stick it back into the chat. So both of those are being worked on as fast as we can, but don't have specific timelines right now.
Great. Any visibility, any feedback, I think is always appreciated. So Mark, thank you for answering questions already in the tech community page. Thank you for taking time to do the quickest demo I've ever seen you do, and then to be able to field questions live here on camera. Thank you for everything that you and the team do. Definitely go check out the Stream blog that we referenced. Join them in their office hours, review all their documentation, get your questions answered in any fashion throughout the year. But I do want to take this time to thank all of our presenters for making time today to be available to answer your questions, to engage in the community aspect of answering questions. I want to raise the awareness that we will have all these questions in the tech page. We will turn off the ability to ask new questions, but we will try to farm out and make sure that we do address questions that we didn't answer on camera or didn't get addressed on the page itself. That might take us a little time to come back to. We absolutely appreciate your voice here. Hopefully I was able to convey your questions properly to our experts. And thank you very much for your interest in Microsoft 365, and of course the little bit narrower portfolio that we represented today with SharePoint, OneDrive, Lists, and Stream. We love to hear from you. We love to unblock and answer any questions that you have. And thank you for your time today.